Honorable Men Discord. Social media influencer found unalive in her vehicle. Let's talk about it.
How you see yourself is how you perceived. I see a man strong, gifted, head strapping, never down on his knees, begging. Gotta make a way, even in my darkest hour. Say the odds against me was new. I would never cower.
As always, welcome back to another episode. I appreciate everyone for tuning in. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and by all means, join in the conversation in the comment section. I waited to talk about this particular incident because I was hopeful there'd be more detail by the time I decided to put together this episode, and unfortunately there hasn't been any update. Now, as of this recording, there was no update, so when I post this and you're watching it, hopefully there's some type of update on something. But for those of you that don't know about this incident, a social media influencer who also works in the nightlife scene was found in her vehicle with gunshot wounds, and she was unalive. Now, she was just, it seems as though where the car was found, she was just about to get off of an exit, and the vehicle was obviously idle, and someone reported it, and law enforcement came, looked at the scene, and she was unalive. But let's go into this Channel 7 news report, and we'll talk about it further. I also have the Instagram of the lounge that she used to work for up, just to look at the lounge, see what it's like, and I'm going to talk about that also. But let's get into the news report first, and then we'll continue.
This evening, police have identified the woman found brutally murdered on the Cross County Parkway. The nightlife influencer was found dead behind the wheel. She'd been shot multiple times on her way home from work. Now police are searching for whoever pulled the trigger, and they're trying to figure out why. Eyewitness News reporter Anthony Carlo is live in Inwood with more. Anthony?
Yeah, Sandra, there's quite a memorial outside of Opus Lounge here where Ariela Mejia Polanco worked for several years. A woman just walked up and lit a candle, tells us that she worked alongside her, and she describes Ariela as always being happy. Well, it's the exact opposite now that the nightlife community is feeling. And even though police say this killing was likely targeted, well, those who worked alongside Ariela are now in fear until this killer is caught. There's no small way to say goodbye to someone who was larger than nightlife. Her name spelled out across a floral heart, a big portrait on West 202nd Street, right next to Opus Lounge, one of the spots she worked at. There's only one way people describe Ariela Mejia Polanco.
She's beautiful. She was beautiful. Beautiful. Pretty.
Known as Ariela La Langosta on social media, it's that kind of admiration that attracted more than 500,000 followers. Her notoriety as an influencer naturally brought about shock with her death, especially in her community. Cardi B posting R.I.P. Dominican Pretty.
That's what it really hurts, Dominican. Very beautiful. Such a thing like this, very, very sad.
It was Sunday morning at around 8 o'clock. Westchester County Police showed up to a grisly scene on the Cross County Parkway near the Broad Street Mount Vernon exit. Mejia Polanco was found dead behind the wheel of her G-Wagon, shot multiple times. She was headed home from work at Icon, New York in Inwood. The lounge writing in part, "Our hearts are broken. Your joy, your humility, and the way you treated everyone with so much care always made you stand out." Police are investigating this as a targeted killing, not random, but investigators are trying to figure out who wanted the influencer dead and why. Mejia Polanco's family tells us the 33-year-old was a great daughter and mother who leaves behind 2 children, ages 13 and 14.
I have a child too, and it's very heartbreaking to see these things.
Kind of frightening, though.
Yeah, it's very frightening, it is.
And again, that is what we've been hearing from many of the people we've spoken with. In fact, I have to stress that several of them were too afraid to go on camera because of the manner and the circumstances that in which Ariella was killed. There have been no arrests at this point, as police again still search for the killer and also to identify a motive. Opus Lounge, where she worked for several years, releasing a statement saying in part that nightlife here in New York City has lost an angel. We're live in Inwood. Anthony Carlo, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
So this is the Instagram for Opus, one of the places she worked at, because they mentioned another place as well. But let me just say something real quick. So before I put together this episode, I came across another channel that covered this, as many channels covered this. And let me first say, before I get into what I'm about to say, condolences to her. My condolences to her 2 children. They said she had 2 children, I believe 14 and 13 years old. Condolences to her family and friends. And may she rest in peace. Now, first time hearing this report, automatically I knew it was targeted. It's not random. You're not driving on the highway and you get shot, unless it's road rage. All right? One thing I will say, although, as I mentioned before, there's way too many guns on the street, for the most part in life, for every action, there's a reaction. For every action, there's a reaction. It's, unless we're talking about accidental murders, accidental accidental murders. There's no other way to describe it. Unless it's a situation where you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, or you're seated next to someone who someone's targeting. Those are the exception. But for the most part, even with all this crime going on in this world, it usually is stemmed from someone looking to get the other person. Rarely is it ever someone's just in the mood to just take a life. All right? Unless we're talking about, in the past, I remember hearing that was part of some gang initiations at one point in time. But for the most part, it always stems from something. So when I heard the news report and they said her vehicle was on the side, clearly it wasn't a robbery. She's driving a very expensive vehicle. I haven't even looked up how much a G-Wagon costs, but I'm pretty sure it's close to 6 figures, if not in 6 figures. I'm just going to guess, and I'm pretty sure my guess is accurate. So it wasn't a robbery. Her doors weren't open when they showed the helicopter view of where it took place, where her vehicle remained. No doors were open. Now, one thing that they did mention in the news report is that there was multiple shots. Now, she's a female. So for multiple shots, first of all, as females don't generally, and let me change. I was gonna say females don't generally get shot, but in 2025, I could be just saying that, and I could be completely inaccurate in saying that. But for a female to be shot multiple times, there's a lot of anger behind that, or unless it was just the type of weapon that was used that just let off a lot of shots. But there's a lot of anger behind that, and usually it comes from a relationship. All right, and I'm not here to play detective. I'm just using logic here. All right, usually it stems from a relationship. The anger would lead to something like this. But earlier today, before putting together this episode, I came across a channel who the host of the channel was saying he was hearing things from the streets. Now, what he said, I'm not confirming it, because obviously he's saying what he heard from the streets, and I'm saying what I'm hearing from him and what he said the street said. All right? That she was known to pretty much involve herself in activity where, guys would be lined up, pretty much. Guys would be lined up. No disrespect to her family and friends. I'm just reporting what this channel said. Obviously, there's no proof to corroborate that, but that's what they're saying. What I will say to what that gentleman said is, in the nightlife, anything is possible. All right, the nightlife, this establishment, when you have entertainers come through, there's big money being spent, bottles are being sold, you know, you're interacting with people with a lot of money. The influence of money and guys whispering in your ear saying, hey, do me a favor, just do this. You know, some of these girls, they're young, you know, they're loving the money, they're loving the ability to buy expensive things, bags, shoes. I'm not saying this is her situation, but it is a nightlife thing. And you can say, oh, you're just speculating. It's a nightlife thing. Where there's money, there's corruption. Where there's a lot of money, there's a lot of corruption. All right? And I'm not blaming Opus, the establishment. I don't know the management. I don't know anybody that's associated with Opus. But where there's a lot of money, beautiful women, bottles being sold, entertainers coming in with more money, these things can't happen, right? One thing is for certain is she was definitely followed. Because here's the thing about this, and by no means do I have a history of being a detective, although I should be, right? Or by no means am I trying to solve this. But again, when I first heard this news report, I said to myself, she was absolutely followed. Absolutely followed. You don't just happen to be on the highway at the same time with somebody. I don't want to say I would put money, because I'm not gonna gamble on this. But wherever she was parked, wherever she was at last, which I believe was the other place, not Opus, someone was probably waiting to see when she left. And whoever it was smart enough to know, I'm not going to do anything in these streets. Maybe there's too many people outside. Maybe she was talking to friends outside. Maybe she was talking to security. Security saw in her vehicle. She left. That person followed, waited until an opportunity to get to the side of her vehicle and just keep it moving. Because on the highway, it's like, let me just let it off and just keep it moving, right? That's a possibility. But the likelihood of it just, the person who shot all those shots just happened to be on the same highway while that person, another thing too, let's just say it wasn't person waiting. Let's say it wasn't someone who was waiting for her to leave the establishment that she left. That person obviously knows her routine when she gets off of work. They might even know it to a T. Like that person might even know, like, oh, I usually take this exit off when I go home. But even still, when we're talking about an incident like this on the highway, that person clearly was following her. Hands down. You can't tell me otherwise. If you think there's something else, let me know in the comments. But that person was absolutely near or at the location she was at last and waited for the highway to make the maneuver around the side and let some shots off. Regardless of the fact, unfortunate situation, horrible situation, tragic situation. Condolences again to her and the family and to her children. What can we learn from this? I always try to wrap up with some type of positive way to conclude, or some insight into ways to take another approach to a situation like this. And this is not including what I heard from the other channel about her possibly being caught up in some type of foul play towards other individuals that could have possibly led to this. If you work the nightlife, and this is for females, this is for males also, but mostly for females, because females, let's be honest, if you're a female watching this channel, you're the most vulnerable out of male and female. I'm just gonna let's just be honest. You're the most vulnerable. Can guys lose their life? Absolutely. We see it all the time on the news. But as a female, an attractive female, even if you're not attractive, and you're a female, you have to be extra careful. Someone like her with the ability to drive a G-Wagon, I don't know her bank account, I don't know what type of money she was making. If you're someone who works in the nightlife, I would suggest you take Uber. Now, you might say, well, I want to drive the car I have. I love my car. I get it. But you're working the nightlife. All right? And even then, listen, I'm not saying to live life in fear, but depending on your occupation, you got to move differently. You have to move differently. Now, this could have still took place in the vehicle if she ordered an Uber. Don't get me mistaken, because I do remember there was a news report of a young lady who was in an Uber, and this wasn't in New York City. I'd have to think and look it up where it took place, but a young lady was unalived in an Uber or a Lyft. I'm pretty sure some of you recall that story, but unfortunately there was a woman who was unalived in a mobile car service. But with that being said, I would have rather her used an Uber, because then she's there with a driver, and yes, the driver could lose their life also, but it helps record the movement. The driver picked you up at this time, and the driver has the GPS. She's driving her vehicle, the G-Wagon. She's probably not using a GPS to go home. She knows how to get home. The Uber will have the pickup and the drop off. Whenever the car eventually rolled over because of the gunshots, let's say she used the Uber and she got hit, the driver got hit, they both became unalive, right? There would still be a track record of when the vehicle was moving to exactly when it stopped. All those things matter in piecing together, figuring out when it happened, when possibly the vehicle could have been next to them, all those type of things. It helps in trying to solve this thing. But she's driving her own vehicle. I think she's by herself. They never mention anyone else being in the vehicle. So if for nothing else, you have another person with you. Maybe they survive if you didn't survive, and they're able to help to identify or speak on something. They might have been able to say, "Oh, I saw it was a green color SUV or a sedan," something. In this situation, we have nothing. But I don't think the police officers are going to be stuck. I think they're going to be able to figure this out at some point in time. I'm surprised at this point in time, when I decided to make this episode, that they haven't figured out something beyond what they just reported last weekend. But unfortunately, there's no update on this situation. But let me just show this real quick. This is one of her posts from Opus Lounge. I only saw 2 posts from her. This is the one they used. This is not her, and this is not her. At least I don't think so. It doesn't look like her. But I only saw that, and the one they used for the memorial just outside of the venue. And I believe this is a Latin spot, because even in the photo that they use, this one that they use in the news and for the memorial, it's in Latin. But listen, again, those of you that work the nightlife, consider using the Uber. I know you might have a nice vehicle that you might want to pull up in, and you want to leave in that vehicle. But what if this is a situation of jealousy because he has a nice car? What if it's someone who's just jealous of her always getting the most money or the most tips every night? There's always a possibility it's not what the other channel had mentioned about some type of foul dealings that she might have been caught up in. Because I don't want to throw dirt on her name. I don't know her, and just out of respect for her family and friends. But that is something that came up, so I just wanted to put that out there. Because in the nightlife, when that money's being exchanged and it's coming in fast, you know, not speaking on her, but just in general, some people have a price. Some people can be changed for money. Some people have a price, and if that price is met, they're willing to, you know, do certain things that they normally wouldn't do. But again, consider Uber. Consider Uber just for the sake of, you know, having a track record of your movements rather than hopping out of your own vehicle. And then even with stuff like that, you can ask the Uber driver, and I know it's not their responsibility, but when you hop out the vehicle, ask the Uber driver, could you just wait until I get inside the door? You know, give them an extra tip. And that suggestion is for ladies. I'm not expecting guys to do that, because I know guys were prideful. We like, I'm not gonna do that. I look like a, you know, I get it. So that advice is for females, and I give that advice because I'm a father of a daughter. I have sisters, and I would give them that advice. All right. This is unfortunate. This is just very unfortunate. It's, you know, it's just unfortunate. You know, these type of things shouldn't be happening. It just shouldn't be happening. I don't know what type of rage or what caused something like this, but one last thing I want to say, and I'm glad I just remembered it before I closed out this episode. Guys, you know, there's a lot of guys that are infatuated with women. You dated them and maybe they want to move on. Listen, let it go. All right, you can't control anything. If a woman makes up her mind she wants to go, let that woman go. Some of you guys out there, you act as though you can't get another female. You act as though that female is your possession. If I can't have her, no one can. You guys are losing it. You're literally losing your minds over these women. And I know they're beautiful. I know they're fine. They smell good. They look good. But if a person makes up their mind to leave, there's nothing you could do about it. Some of you guys put hands on them to try to control them. That's not keeping them. It's keeping them temporarily out of fear. But why would you want the woman to be fearing you? If the woman doesn't want to be with you, you have to let them go, guys. This behavior, you know, and again, I'm not speaking on this case because I really don't know what drove this to happen. None of us know what drove this to happen. But for those guys that are in relationships losing it over women or what women may say to you, unfortunately for you, if you know you don't like the fact that you're a male, it's our job to take these things on the chin. We're not supposed to be extra emotional and lose it. You can't force anyone to be somewhere that they don't want to be. And so this is not about her situation. This is just in relationships in general. And same thing for females. If the guy doesn't feel like he wants to be with you anymore, don't lose it. Because trust me, there's reports of women taking guys' lives. There's a lot of episodes I could get to because I'm seeing a lot of coverage of just wild stories across this world, particularly this country. And women are not innocent either. Women are taking the lives of guys for whatever reason. Listen, if that person doesn't want to, male or female, if they don't want to be in that relationship or they decided to move on, you got to let them go. If it's meant to be, then it'll work itself out. If it's meant to be. But if not, just got to let it go. But this is not acts like this is not the answer. It's just not the answer. There's no reason why her 14-year-old and 13-year-old don't have a mom. And there's no reason why they have to, regardless if the family holds the details back from the children, there's no reason why at some point in time they got to find out that's how my mother left this earth. There's no reason why. But that's all I have on this episode. What's your thoughts on this whole ordeal, this whole tragedy? Let me know in the comments. As always, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and I'll see you in the next episode. Take care.